Greetings to you, the lovely GIC viewers and listeners within and beyond the borders of the Republic of Namibia, and a very warm welcome to your Thursday morning edition of the Public Enterprises Information Sharing Session. As always, we are coming to you live and direct from the Government Information Center studio in the heart of the nation's capital, Windhoek. For this morning's episode, I will be your host. My name is Helene Felepe-Samunyela, and alongside my studio guests, we will be keeping you company for the next 40 minutes or so. Now, on the menu this morning, we are talking crop production and market regulations. And I'm joined in the studio by Mr. Gilbert Mulonda, General Manager for Agronomy and Horticulture Development at the Namibia Agronomic Board. And he's here to shed more light on the aforementioned topic, which is crop production and market regulations. But as is the norm, before I can officially welcome him on the platform, I'd like to extend a warm invitation to you, Namibia, to be part of this discussion by following the conversation on our social media platforms where we are currently streaming this show live. On Facebook, we are at the Government Information Center, the GIC, or you can stream us live on our YouTube channel, and our handle there is the GIC, the Government Information Center, Namibia. Now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please help me welcome my studio guest for this morning, Mr. Gilbert Mulonda. Good morning once again, Mr. Mulonda. It is such an honor to have you in studio this morning.
Good morning, Eleni, and good morning to the viewers.
All right. As we kickstart the conversation for the benefit of our viewers and listeners, we would like to find out, because some of them or many of them may not be aware or quite familiar with the mandate of the Namibia Agronomic Board, if you can just briefly take us through the mandate of the Namibia Agronomic Board.
Yes, thank you. The Namibian Agronomic Board was established in 1985 in terms of the current Act, which is Act number 20 of 1992. So its mandate is to promote the agronomy and horticulture industry and to facilitate production, processing, storage, and marketing of controlled crops. And some of our specific functions deals with matters of registration and licensing of farmers, traders, and processors. Then we also deal with matters that are related to food safety and quality controls, which is mainly the inspection services in this case. Then on the other hand, we also have the aspect of border management, particularly controlling what comes in and out of the country. Okay. So then we have other aspects related to market facilitation, including research and development as well. So I think those are our core functions when it comes to our mandate.
Okay. Now that we can relate to the mandate of the board, briefly talk to us on how or what the role of the Namibia Agronomic Board is in facilitating Namibia's crop sector.
Yes, thank you. The Namibian Agronomic Board has got a very special role when it comes to facilitating what is happening in the crop industry. Now, you must be able to, first of all, realize that when we deal with crops, we're dealing with food in the first place.
Right.
And therefore, without much saying, you will notice that we are more in terms of regulating what comes in and out of the country, and also regulating crops that are produced in the country. Okay. To ensure that they are safe for human consumption and the quality aspect is also maintained. We also ensure that we actually facilitate the marketing of production, be it in terms of local market or market that is actually outside the country. So I think looking at that is quite a very special role, and it's quite very important that all the time we actually maintain in terms of carrying out that specific function.
All right. Thank you for that information. And now, Mr. Molonda, the Namibia Agronomic Board launched the Crop Value Chain Development Strategy late last year. Talk to us a bit about some of the various schemes to be implemented under this very important strategy.
First of all, what I would want to highlight is that Namibia is actually a net importer of food products. That is the starting point, and if you look at the current NDP6, government intends to actually increase local production to about 80% of our consumption. So that is quite a very high target. It's a target that is actually achievable, and that's why the Namibian Agronomic Board developed the Crop Value Chain Development Strategy for the next 5 years, meaning starting from 2025 to 2030. So the strategy intends to actually drive the development of the crop value chain, meaning starting from inputs all the way up to marketing. So some of the schemes that we'll be implementing under this crop value chain strategy, the first one is the Potato Value Chain Development Scheme, which was introduced, that was in late last year. And under that scheme, we basically intend to provide basic inputs to farmers. And this is seeds, fertilizer, and pesticides or agrochemicals in this case. So it's a subsidy scheme where we intend to actually subsidize farmers for 2 consecutive seasons, of which the first season you are subsidized 50%, and the next season the subsidy would actually reduce to about 25%. So the scheme does not just come with the subsidy, but it also comes with capacity building, which is mainly training, mentorship, including issues of facilitation in terms of market access and access to finance. So that is the role that we are going to play in this potato scheme. And I think it goes without saying that in terms of potatoes, potatoes is number 2 in terms of consumption of horticultural crops in Namibia.
Right.
So it's very important, and currently we're still importing about 70%, and that's why we actually introduced this scheme to be able to stimulate local production.
Right.
Then the other scheme is the One Farmer, One Center Pivot scheme, which was approved by the board late last year. That was in November. So this scheme is also a subsidy scheme, but it's also a capacity building scheme for farmers. So in there, we actually intend to subsidize farmers with solar-powered center pivots to a maximum of 10 hectares with a 50% subsidy.
Okay.
So that is one scheme that would actually assist Namibia to address the impact of climate change on crop production, because we have realized that in years where we don't have sufficient rainfall, production of staple grain crops is normally very low because of drought and so on. So, and therefore we foresee that this scheme would actually drive us to an issue of food security.
All right.
Then the last one is the Fruit Development Scheme.
Sorry, Mr. Molonda, food or fruit?
The Fruit Development Scheme.
Fruit Development
Yes.
Scheme, all right.
So this scheme has been existing for quite many years. It was reviewed. So it's a new scheme. Again, it's also targeting in terms of providing subsidy to the farmers, but also capacity building to the farmers and so on. So I think it's quite very important at this stage to highlight that currently Namibia imports about 97% of our fruits, and therefore it's very important that we also increase production of fruits that can be produced in Namibia.
Right.
Of course, we cannot be able to produce everything, but we can be able to increase production of some of the tropical and subtropical fruits.
Okay. Maybe whilst on there, what are some of those fruits that you are referring to? What are we currently producing as a nation?
Thank you. Currently, our number 1 fruit that we actually produce is table grapes. As you know, most of our table grapes are for export. Only roughly about 1% is actually sold in our domestic market. So, and then the other one that has been prioritized from our side is citrus.
Okay.
Is also quite a very big line for local market, but mainly for export as well.
Right.
Then we also have fruits such as bananas, mangoes, a lot, including pineapples as well, that can be produced in Namibia, looking at our climatic and soil conditions at the moment.
Wow, it's impressive to know. So we are now producing bananas as well.
Yes.
Wow, what a commendable job it is. Now, thank you for that information, Mr. Mulonda. And maybe I'd like to draw you a little bit back. You've earlier on mentioned some of the scheme that is being implemented. You mentioned the solar subsidized scheme, right? I just wanted to find out, for the benefit of the farmers who are tuned in right now, what would make them qualify for this, solar subsidized scheme?
All right, thank you. When we talk about irrigation technology, the first thing that comes to mind in terms of what the requirement would be, it's whether you have got water, sufficient water for irrigation.
Right.
So that's number one requirement from our side, to make sure that there is sufficient water for irrigation in the first place. So there are also other requirements that you will have to actually produce, at least for the summer crops, like grains such as maize, and winter crops such as wheat and so on. So those will be some of the main requirements, but I think at this stage I would want to emphasize that access to water, quality water for irrigation, that is a very critical requirement for the scheme.
Right. So for our farmers that are tuned in, to be eligible for this solar subsidized scheme, you must have plenty of water, and you must produce then crops such as maize, and you must also then produce then winter crops such as wheat to be eligible for this solar subsidized scheme. Now, as we continue with our conversation in the studio, Mr. Mulonda, the Namibia Agronomic Board implements the growth at home strategy, right, in the crop subsector. As the horticulture market share promotion schemes and a grain marketing scheme, how or what are the measures that are in place to help curb the dependency on other food imports from other countries or crop?
Yes, in 2005, the Namibian Agronomic Board introduced the Horticulture Market Share Promotion Scheme. So the intention of this scheme literally is to stimulate local production of fruits and vegetables.
Right.
So at that time in 2005, Namibia was importing about 95% of fresh fruits and vegetables. So currently, as we speak, the minimum threshold for this scheme is currently at 47%. So basically it means, as a trader selling fresh fruits and vegetables in Namibia, you are required to actually source a minimum percentage of 47% from local farmers.
Right.
So basically is to support the local industry to grow.
Right.
So that is our focus, so that one day probably we could reach 60–70% of local production. So that is one of the schemes that has stimulated local production, and we have seen from our statistics that production indeed did increase as a result of that scheme.
Right.
Then the other one is the grain marketing scheme, which was introduced in 2009. So the intention, again, was really to stimulate the production of grain in the country. As you know, that we are a net importer of grain. So this grain, it's mainly white maize, pure millet, or popularly known as mahangu, and wheat. So under this scheme, we restrict imports during what we call the marketing periods, and that normally starts from May all the way to October, or until such time when the local harvest has been taken up by millers.
Right.
So it's also under this scheme where we actually give quite a very good price for farmers to make sure that our farmers are protected in terms of the minimum price that a miller or a buyer should be able to buy it. So I think with this scheme, we have also seen quite a significant improvement in terms of production. However, our biggest risk, like I've indicated in terms of grain production, is drought, as most of our grains are produced under dryland conditions, and therefore you will see that there is a lot of ups and downs when you look at our statistics in terms of the production of grain.
All right. Now, Mr. Mulonda, I have observed that especially for the vegetables, your potatoes, the butternuts and what so forth, the onions and everything, right? There are times when the prices for this vegetables is just skyrocketing. I want to find out, then when we consult the owners of the shops, they will tell us that it's off season and whatnot. Does the board perhaps have, any powers to regulate the prices for these vegetables, or is it solely depending, on the season or the farmer's price?
All right, thank you. As you know, in terms of the Namibian Agronomic Board, the Act makes provision that yes, the board, after approval from the line minister, we can be able to fix prices for certain commodities.
Right.
There is that provision in the Agronomic Industry Act, and therefore, at this stage, we are caught in a situation whereby there is an issue of free market and there is an issue of an establishing act.
Right.
So our focus at this stage is really to regulate the price of staple food crops in terms of the grain.
Okay.
For horticulture and vegetables, we don't regulate those prices, and therefore the market based on demand and supply determines the market price at that time. Of course, depending on whether there is an off-season or you are in season or whether there is an oversupply.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that information. I'm happy to learn from this conversation, actually. Now, Namibia, if you are just tuning in, you are tuned into a public enterprises information sharing session. And as always, we are coming to you live and direct from the Government Information Center studio, broadcasting live from the heart of the nation's capital here in Windhoek. I am your host. My name is Helene Felepe-Samunyela. And for this morning, we are talking crop production and market regulations. And I'm joined in the studio by Mr. Gilbert Mulonda. He is the General Manager for Agronomy and Horticulture Development at the Namibia Agronomic Board, and he's here to help shed more light on the topic, which is crop production and market regulations. Now, you too can be part of this conversation by following the discussion on our social media platforms, where we are currently streaming this show live. On Facebook, we are at the Government Information Center studio, the GIC, or you can stream us live on our YouTube channel. Our handle there is GIC, the Government Information Center. Be part of this conversation and add your contribution in our comment sections on both social media platforms where we are currently streaming this show live. Ms. Mulonda, as we continue with our discussion in the studio, I know that, standards is actually a very important mandate for the Namibia Agronomic Board, standard compliance. And it is critical in ensuring food security and market access. How does the Namibia Agronomic Board ensures food safety and quality at the production level and market level for agronomic and horticulture products to safeguard the end consumer, and as well as while promoting the trade?
Food safety, number one, starts on the farm. Now, you can be able to imagine that crops are produced on the farm, and there are a lot of chemicals that are actually produced or applied on these crops to either maintain quality or to protect them from attacks
Pesticides, right,
from pests. So starting at that, you can already foresee a risk that can arise as a result of the application of some of these chemicals. And therefore, the Namibian Agronomic Board is currently implementing a program at farm level to ensure food safety.
Right.
And this is called the local gap, which is the Namibian good agricultural practices, in other words. So the program intends to ensure that we protect the end consumer, we ensure food safety, we also protect workers' health for those that are working on the farms, and we also protect the environment.
Right.
So that is the main intention of this standard, to actually ensure that we are able to safeguard food safety at consumption level. So I think that's what we are doing currently on our side to actually ensure food safety at farm production level.
All right, Namibia, welcome back. Welcome back to our conversation this morning. As earlier mentioned, we are talking crop production and market regulation. I am joined in the studio by Mr. Gilbert Mulonda. He is the General Manager for Agronomy and Horticulture Development at the Namibia Agronomic Board. I am Heleni Felapo-Samunyela, and I'm your host for this morning. As we continue with our discussion in the studio, Mr. Mulonda, as I was just saying, standard compliance is very critical to the Namibia Agronomic Board, and especially on food safety and the quality at production and market level for agronomic and horticulture products. Briefly talk to us on how the safeguard and consume while promoting trade also works, as while also, ensuring the quality of these products.
So most of the food that we buy from the shop, you actually look at the quality of a product, and then as a consumer, you can decide whether to buy that product or not. And therefore, quality is also very important. The Namibian Agronomic Board has developed over 20 standards for quality control, mainly for vegetables and certain fruits. That includes fruits such as grapes and citrus.
Right.
So these standards are available through the NSI.
Right.
And as a producer, you can be able to buy them and use them to grade your products whenever you are taking your products to the market.
Okay.
Now, another aspect is that we also have what we call technical grading regulation. That is for white maize, pure millet, that are actually already in place. So, and I must emphasize that when we talk about standards, at this stage, standards are voluntary.
Right.
So, meaning there is no enforcement of the law from the Agronomic Board to ensure that you are able to comply. But when it comes to technical grading regulations that are in place for white maize and mahangu, these are mandatory compliance standards that are there. So it means you must be able to comply to the requirements that are stipulated in the grading regulations in terms of quality, in terms of packaging, and so on.
Okay.
So I think that is quite a very important aspect, because as you know, in our days, consumers are very sensitive to matters of health consciousness, and therefore it's very important that from the Agronomic Board as a regulator, we actually safeguard their interest in this case.
All right. And now, Mr. Mulonda, quite often, I know that we are living in the fourth industrial revolution, right? And there are quite a number of genetically modified products in the market. At what level, or at all, does the Namibia Agronomic Board have powers and authorities to ensure that these GMO products also apply, or there is a certain level or standards that they need to be applied? And because I also feel like sometimes as end consumers, we need to be informed whether the maize that I'm purchasing now is actually GMO product or it's organic. Obviously, in most cases, the organic one is the better choice. But I just wanted to find out from your end as the board, to what extent do you go in regulating GMO-related products?
Thank you.
At all, yeah.
The Namibian Agronomic Board does not, in the first place, regulate the production or importation of genetically modified products.
Okay.
So that is the responsibility of the NCRST, that is the National Council on Research, Science and Technology.
Okay.
So they are responsible to implement compliance when it comes to the production or marketing of genetically modified products.
Right.
So in that space, you will see that it is legal for somebody to import, process, and sell GMO products in Namibia.
Right.
As long as you have got necessary permits from the competent authority, in this case, which is the NCRST.
Okay.
So from the NAB side, we don't regulate importation or marketing or production of GMO products.
Right. All right. We continue with our dialogue here in the studio. Now, horticulture exports has increased from 674 million in 2016, as records say, to 2.1 billion in 2024. Right? What is the role of the Namibia Agronomic Board in facilitating exports? One, and what are some of the major crops that are being exported?
First of all, the Namibian Agronomic Board, when it comes to exports, we actually play a very critical role. You will realize that when we deal with export, we are dealing with products that goes outside our borders, and those countries where we actually export, they've got standards, they've got requirements in those specific markets. And therefore, from the Namibian Agronomic Board, we ensure that we inspect those products before they go for export to make sure that they comply to food safety requirements. They also comply to market requirements.
Okay.
So that is very important because remember, once the product leaves the Namibian borders and it's in another country, it's no longer about a product that comes on my farm. It's now seen as a Namibian product.
Absolutely.
And that is very important to maintain the Namibian brand outside there, to ensure that we build confidence and trust in those markets so that they continue buying our products and support our economy in
Absolutely.
the end. So I think that is quite very important. That is the role that we play. Apart from that, we also ensure that once these products are inspected at the farm or at the pack house, the exit is therefore also checked by the Namibian Agronomic Board to make sure that only products that are certified for exports actually leaves the country. So that is the role that we play, and it goes without further to things like registration of those that are doing exports and also issuing of permits and so on. So I think that is a very critical role that we play. And recently, we also rolled out a program on market access to expand our markets. And as the NAB, we actually ensure that we support government in that space to ensure that we expand our markets to other countries where our farmers could actually fetch a very good price for their products.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Mulonda. Now, shifting gears to the national development plans, in particular the National Development Plan 6, NDP 6, agro-processing is one of the focus area for that NDP 6. What is the current status quo, and what are the opportunities for agro-processing development?
So it basically means that we must put more effort in ensuring that we actually achieve the targets that are in NDP 6. So one of the targets is basically to ensure that by 2030, agro-processing contributes about 10% to our GDP.
Right.
So that means moving it from the current 7.5% to 10%.
Right.
So if you look at the difference there, it's not a very big difference. I think it's just a matter of putting the right things in place to be able to achieve that target.
Right.
So from the NAB side, we have also ensured that in our crop value chain strategy, agro-processing is quite very prominent. So what we intend is to address issues related to standards.
Right.
As you know, standards are very critical, especially for processed product, because they are handled at different level, and therefore the risk of cross-contamination or food safety risk becomes very high if there are no proper controls that are actually in place.
Right.
And therefore, from our side, we have committed to ensure that those standards are put in place to assist the industry to ensure that they produce quality products, and that will grant them market access in the end.
Right.
So the opportunity in agro-processing is quite very big, particularly for crop-based processed products. So currently, as we speak, we import about 6.4 billion worth of agro-processed products into the country. So if you look at 6.4 billion, it's quite a very big figure. So basically, it tells you that this is money that is actually going out of this country to create jobs in other countries. So, and therefore, if we can be able to reverse the situation, that is the money that should create jobs here. And you have seen from the current administration of government, employment creation and creating more and more jobs is quite very critical.
Indeed, it
So
is priority.
I think from that space is just really to emphasize again that agro-processing is very important. It's not only going to create jobs, it will also create market access for farmers. It will also reduce what we call post-harvest losses at farm level. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Mulonda, we are slowly but surely coming to the end of our discussion. But before that, I know much has been done and much has been said, but I want to find out from you the challenges that you are experiencing or you have observed that the farmers are experiencing in this agro-processing focus area. What are some of the challenges that are prominent?
Yes, one of the biggest challenges at this stage when it comes to agro-processing, because remember, when we talk about agro-processing from the crop industry, we are looking at agronomic crops and we are looking at horticulture crops.
Right.
So if you look at agronomic crops, I think we have done quite very well there in terms of agro-processing. So that is where you find your maize meal, your flour, and your mahangu flour.
Right.
So if you look at that space currently, we even produce products such as pasta, instant porridge that we actually produce. So, and therefore you can say in that space we have actually done very well. But on horticulture side, you will notice that there is quite a big challenge there.
Right.
Yeah. So the biggest challenge on horticulture, as you know, we're still importing roughly about 70% of our products.
Okay.
Okay, so we are talking about the raw material here.
Right.
So this raw material is imported from somewhere else, it's not produced local. And therefore, naturally, whenever local production increases, it actually increases innovation as well.
Right.
Because farmers will now be pushed to innovate to see how else they can add value to their product. And therefore, I think the aspect of access to raw material is quite a very big challenge at the moment. Even in terms of the agronomy, in terms of the white maize, the wheat that we are processing into flour or maize meal, you will actually realize that 70% of that raw material is actually imported from elsewhere and processed in this country. So I think that is one of the biggest challenges that we need to resolve is the production of raw material to ensure that we are able to drive agro-processing.
All right.
The other things is issues related to technology, agro-processing infrastructure, tailor-made financing for agro-processing. I think these are some of the challenges that are also somehow constraining the agro-processing sector from expanding.
All right. Thank you so much. There is always room for improvement, and we are saying we are looking for the betterment or hoping for the betterment of everything. So most definitely, we see better days coming. And in order for better days, they say evolution is something that is imminent, right? Research and development is key for agriculture development, right? And talk to us about some of the key collaborative research projects that the Namibia Agronomic Board has undertaken since 2020 to date.
No, the Namibian Agronomic Board, number one, is mandated in terms of the Agronomic Industry Act to conduct research and to collaborate with institutions that are of interest. So I think that is the starting point, and therefore in 2020-2021, we actually partnered various public and private institutions to conduct research in various areas. So the first one is the research that we are currently conducting together with the University of Namibia, where we are actually doing some trials on different varieties of white maize, pure millet, and wheat. So this research project is actually a field-based research to actually test different varieties against the Namibian climate to ensure if they are able to perform in terms of yields better than what we have. And so far we have done quite very well in that specific area. We are currently at the stage where we are in a process of registering the top performing varieties that were identified through this research. So these varieties would actually be registered as Namibian variety for further multiplication in terms of seed production. So that is quite very important, because if you want to achieve food security, you have to start with the seed. And that's why you see that our focus is to ensure that we produce seeds, especially for the staple food crops that we produce in Namibia.
All right.
So that is one of them. Then the other one, we had also partnered a company that comes from France in terms of potato seed varieties trials.
Right.
So that was around 2022 when we actually trialed a total of about 6 varieties, of which 4 of them were found to be performing better than some of the local varieties that we currently produce.
Right.
And through that process, again, the intention of the researcher is not just to conduct research, but also to entice farmers into the production of some of these crops.
Right.
And I think from our end, we have done that quite very well, to a certain extent that today, as we speak, even small-scale farmers can be able to produce potatoes as a result of the trials that we've conducted. So I think that is also quite a very important area, because we just wanted to ensure that there is easy access to seeds for production.
Right.
Then the last one is the one where we actually partnered a local company. It's a private company that is involved in the production of seeds. They are based in Swakopmund. That is a company called Avagro.
Okay.
So that was in 2024 when we partnered with them to actually do trials on banana commercial production.
Right.
So currently, as we speak, we have got a trial site where we have partnered together with the Tunda irrigation scheme. We have bananas that are planted there, and if you go there, you will realize that they've started fruiting as we speak.
Right.
Then when it comes to the cast area, we also have got some other trial sites there at Divundu, including in the Zambezi region.
Right.
Now, the importance of research is really to test whether something can be done or not. So in the Zambezi region, at one of our sites, we actually experienced frost at that site, and that had completely damaged the first planting of bananas there, and therefore the harvest could not be realized there.
Okay.
Now, in research, you actually document every incident every incidents that you actually go through.
Right.
Because that, in the end, it will assist you in making a decision on whether something is doable or not.
Or not.
And I think we are at that stage where we have noticed that a site that we have selected in the Zambezi region was actually next to the river. And therefore, the risk of frost was quite very high. But we are quite confident that inland, the risk of frost is much lesser than at the riverside.
Absolutely.
So we are continuing with research. It's not stopping there. We will identify more sites to be able to carry out the banana trials in there.
Right.
Now, I think you'll be wondering why bananas. If you look at your fruits that you eat every day,
Right.
in every pack of a child that goes to school, you'll either find a banana or an apple.
Right.
So that is the sequence of consumption in Namibia as well. So you get apple number 1 and bananas number 2 in terms of consumption.
Okay.
So I think that gives you an idea that if we fix the production of bananas in this country, we will be addressing a very big problem in terms of food security. So I think that is quite very important from our side. And research and development is a continuous process. It's not a once-off, because every time you release new technology, the latest one is also on board.
Right.
So, and therefore we'll keep collaborating with the public and private sector to conduct research in the crop industry.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Mulonda. Now, lastly, Mr. Mulonda, it's the rainy season right now, right? And the farmers are hard at work trying to either plant, or some of them are already, weeding at this point. And they are hard at work trying to produce various products, right? From your horticulture products and fruits, as we've earlier on mentioned. What is your message to these farmers that are hard at work, being optimistic that one day they are going to reap the fruits or the harvest, that they are actually busy working hard at now? What is your message to them?
Yes, I'm sure you might have realized that we have got a very good rainy season in certain areas of Namibia this year.
Right.
Particularly, our focus is not rain that is received in cities, in town, but rain that is received in the production areas for agricultural production. So that is our focus as the board. And recently, we have seen that some areas received a lot of rainfall and others received a little bit less. So you'll always have, in the space of climate change, you'll always have those variations in terms of rainfall that is received in different areas. So at this stage, the planting season for summer crops has already ended, particularly for white maize and mahangu. So at this stage, it's really talking to crop management and watching out for possible flooding of crops.
Right.
Because if you have got too much rainfall, it could easily destroy the crops in this case.
Absolutely.
So I think at this stage is just to emphasize again that we encourage farmers to be on the lookout for possible flooding of their crops, because certain crops, especially when it comes to maize, it does not want waterlogging for a quite prolonged time.
Right.
And therefore, these are some of the things that farmers must be able to watch out. Then on the other hand, we also issues related to pests. Because it's most likely that if you have got issues related to rainfall, you might experience pest outbreak here and there on your crops.
Right.
And therefore, scouting in the field is quite very important to just make sure that you do not have pests in your field. So I think we, from the agronomic board side, we are looking to a very good season in terms of production of summer crops, which is the grain in this case. And therefore, we just hope that, especially for dryland production, the current rain pattern would actually continue at least up until end of March to ensure that the crops are able to mature properly and give a better yield to our farmers.
Right.
So I think that's what we are looking at, and is again just to encourage the farmers to keep on doing what they know best. Because farmers, they know what they are doing, and with what they are doing, they will be able to realize a better harvest at the end of the day.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Mulonda, for taking time away from your busy schedule to come and educate us this morning on crop production and market regulations in a Namibian context, of course. Thank you so much. We appreciate the work that the board is doing, and it's not going unnoticed. Thank you so much for supporting the farmers. I'm sure I'm speaking on behalf of farmers out there as well to say that they are appreciating your efforts. And of course, there is always room for improvement. The research must continue because it's a continuous process, right? We appreciate the work that you are doing, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Namibia, we have come to the end of our discussion this morning. We were talking crop production and market regulations. I was joined in the studio by Mr. Gilbert Mulonda. He is the General Manager for Agronomy and Horticulture Development at the Namibia Agronomic Board. My name is Helene Felebo-Samunyela. I've been your host. From myself and the entire GIC production crew, until next time, take care.